After last week's huge reveal, Westworld is back and my brain continues to melt into mush. I'm not going to waste any of your time, we're going to get into some of the show's biggest theories and unanswered questions, and be sure to stick around to the end of the video because I've sleuthed out some really interesting things from the trailers that might hint at where the show is headed. Episode 5 has a really interesting title, Zhuangzi, named after ancient Chinese text which expresses the theme of freedom from the human world. Christina is currently trapped in this quote-unquote human world, and over the course of this episode will begin to free herself from it. We can hear William talk about there being beauty to this world, a grand design, which echoes the same thing said about the original Westworld. In fact, New York has become a mirror image of Westworld, in the sense that the hosts now come to it with the humans being slaves stuck in loops. William meets a man and woman for dinner where a philosophical conversation takes place about the nature of control. How can you be sure you have control and you're not just programmed? It goes back to this idea of free will versus determinism. Are we really making our own choices, or has everything been predetermined, just like the loops our hosts partake in? This guy believes so much that he's in control over his life that William pulls the rug out from under him, showing him that he has no control at all, only the illusion of it. The same thing will happen to Christina, who realizes this illusion of control is but a tool to keep her under Hale's control. So are these two humans or hosts? Well, we know William can order them around. Both seem to be brainwashed into their own scripts, and William calls them, quote, a significant investment of time and effort. I'll leave it up for you to decide. William is interrupted by Clementine, notifying him that a park guest has developed an appetite that has become unsustainable. It's kind of ironic because in season 1, William had a similar insatiable appetite, taking out dozens and dozens of hosts in his quest to discover the center of the maze. A trail of bodies leads William to hope, both literally and figuratively. This is the start of his own journey where he'll question his purpose in life. Hope was sent on a mission to find an outlier, a human who has, for reasons unknown to Hale, deviated from their loop. Hope was successful in taking out her target, that homeless man Christina has seen in previous episodes. However, her interaction with him has caused an infection of sorts. Over the course of 3 days, she slowly went mad, ultimately killing herself. And she's not the only one. We'll later find out there are currently 38 dead hosts, all triggered by contact with these outliers. We learn that Hope was scheduled for a procedure next week to transcend. We aren't exactly sure what this means, however we see this guy here undergoing this process. Hale describes it as, quote, giving up one's human nature, and it seems to involve giving up one's body. Maybe it means they've been uploaded to some sort of virtual world like the Sublime instead of living in the real one. When we later see Christina visit this back room at Olympiad, we see 2 maps. One Christina calls the city and the other the game. Maybe transcending means being uploaded to one of these. Maybe there are 2 New Yorks, a virtual one and a real one. Christina's job, after all, is writing for a game. Speaking of Christina, she wakes up in the same type of shot from previous episodes. As we'll find out later, Teddy tells her she's close to deviating from her loop, which may get her flagged by Hale as an outlier. She still has that creepy tower painting, and she'll later tell Maya something Teddy said, that sometimes the things most real are just stories. Christina believes her world to be real, but over the course of the episode we'll find out she is simply writing the stories of those around her. In this shot we can see the Olympiad building, and to the right the same structure where we last left Caleb. Christina busies herself with work, starting a new narrative about a country girl living with her rancher father, a nod to Dolores living with her father on the ranch. Like Dolores, Christina wakes up every morning with the feeling that there is something wrong with the world. She's interrupted by her boss, Emmett. He seems to have a close eye on her. A few episodes ago he was even tracking her. But as she explains her new narrative, Teddy calls Christina, who somehow knows her boss is breathing down her neck. He's wanting to meet her. I totally missed this last episode, but inside the light fixtures are those sound transmitters which relay instructions to the humans. The blood on this guy's fingers suggests Hale has been practicing with these humans for a very long time. It's a nod to the early early days of Westworld in which the humans would teach the hosts how to dance, so it's kinda weird what's going on here. Are the humans not perfected? Is this a flashback to earlier days at the park? The piano plays Lou Reed's Perfect Day, which also happens to be the song featured in the first Season 4 trailer. Charlotte equates herself to God, and this god is bored. Bonus points for this weird human chair. She makes reference to a god coming down to the mortal world disguising himself as a swan, which is a reference to the Greek myth of Leda and the Swan, in which Zeus disguised himself as a swan and R-worded Leda. It's a pretty brutal metaphor for what Charlotte is doing to humanity. Hale does not like this place. It was originally intended to be a stopgap where hosts can visit humans, but the hosts can't get enough. After all, they were designed after humans and coded with their sensibilities. William and Hale take this long bridge which connects the park to the tower. Outside you can see these two red riot robots which were featured in Season 3. Hale informs William of this virus, and we notice this white flower, something Hope may have taken from the homeless man she was sent to dispose of. Hale has given the host the ability to choose, and she's frustrated the hosts haven't decided to transcend like she wants. She could have forced all the hosts to do this, but won't, stating that that's what the humans would have done. An elevator takes Hale and William to the Overwatch, where a map shows us how different hosts were sent to target this outlier, Hope being one of them. When a human deviates from their loop, it's called a breach. This is similar to Westworld and how human Delos employees would be brought in to take out defective hosts. Hope broke the rules, and instead of immediately taking out the outlier, she interacted with him. This caused some sort of infection. William will later break the rules himself, interacting with another outlier on top of a building. If William is like the others who got infected, will he too become crazy and eventually kill himself? We already see the beginnings of this when he confronts the real William and questions his purpose. I'm not sure where this bloody hand came from. It looks as though his hand is fine after recovering from Jay's attack, but who knows? I still think there's a chance host William will either set real William free or trade places with him. That could make for some really cool drama later on. Hale will dig her nails into her scarred arm. She kept the scars to remind her of what humanity did to her and her family. This outlier problem is really getting on her nerves, and to top it off, there's a new outlier that needs to be caught, and the rebels are on their way. She tells William that he can't hesitate. As soon as he finds her, kill her. Bonus points if you notice that when Hale removes the map, it briefly turns into an image of the maze. Jay and Stubbs arrive in New York. By capturing one of Charlotte's drones, they've managed to track down one of these outliers, so it's a race against time who can reach this outlier first. Jay says that Charlotte has the humans in the park on prescribed loops that keep them busy and stops them from questioning their own reality. I like this cheeky shot of the Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom, overlooking a New York where no one is free. Christina meets with Teddy, who challenges her notion of reality. We learn that it was indeed Teddy who beat up Peter, and at first Christina thinks she's just traded one stalker for another. He tells her the first step in understanding is realizing this world is a lie. Teddy shows her how she has the power to rewrite people's loops, going on to say,
"In this world, you're a god."
Charlotte also called herself a god in this episode. So just who exactly is Christina? She's someone who definitely has a connection with Dolores. After all, she keeps wanting to write a narrative about a lonely country girl. She also has the ability to change other people's narratives. It was my interpretation that her co-workers, who we see here at work also writing narratives, are merely part of Christina's fake reality, an illusion if you will. As we'll find out later, it seems Christina has written everyone's narratives. I can't help but see the correlation between her and Maeve from Season 1. Maeve snapped out of her loop and had to pretend in order to get to the bottom of who she really is. She, like Christina, develops the power to control others. But Christina is trapped in Hale's world. Hale keeps tabs on her, and it's almost as if Hale needs Christina for some reason. That's all we really know at this point. Then the question remains, who is Teddy? It could be Dolores herself. He refers to himself as an old friend, and Teddy feels they've known each other for lifetimes. It could also be the resurrected Maeve acting through him. We know she can control all sorts of AI, and maybe by creating some sort of copy of Teddy that she could control, it would help in breaking Christina's illusion of the world. That being said, Teddy warns her to keep sticking to her loop as to not raise suspicion. Jay and the gang are attacked by Will's mind-controlled humans, basically confirming that it was him last episode who ordered the park patrons in the 1920s world to go go after Caleb and Maeve. Will gets to the outlier first, but instead of immediately shooting her, the two interact, something he's not supposed to do. It raises the question about whether or not he'll be infected. Jay ends up shooting William and bringing the outlier to safety. During an extremely awkward coffee date, it seems as though Hale is trying to interrogate Christina. She asks about this mystery man she's been seeing, but before she can answer, Christina causes two people to crash into one another, causing a commotion. Christina heads into work and searches for Charlotte Hale, which comes up with no results. She then searches Dolores Abernathy, which is flagged as an illegal request. You can even see this quote, "Authorized personnel have been notified." That's gotta be concerning for next episode. Emmett surprises her and questions why she is here. He'll go on to use the line,
"Have you ever questioned the nature of your reality?"
which is a question that came up multiple times in season 1.
Have you ever questioned the nature of your reality?
Funny enough, the real William will tell host William maybe it's time he questions his. Emmett goes on to tell Christina that Hale is already suspicious of her. Christina is able to rewrite Emmett's narrative, basically controlling him, and he says,
"Do you know what would happen if she knew you'd breached the walled garden?"
We don't know much about this walled garden other than it's some sort of system and that it's everywhere. It gives me the Matrix vibes. With Emmett leaving and suddenly this door appearing out of nowhere, it suggests Christina is in some sort of virtual reality, perhaps the very game she told her date in episode 1 that she writes for. The episode ends with Christina telling Teddy that he was right. She can now see the tower in the distance, which she couldn't before. She asks who built this world and who did this to her, which Teddy says she did, but why would she want to put herself through this? Unless, of course, Teddy isn't referring to Christina directly, but a copy of her, the one inside Charlotte Hale that exited Westworld at the end of season 2. Now up next we have our spoiler section where we take a look at the trailers to see where the rest of the season might be headed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've seen this specific shot of Stubbs in New York. The last we saw of him, he was on a boat headed out of the park. Does this mean he heads back in? Bernard and C head into the ruins of what I believe to be the 1920s park. He's already in the general area, and we saw him have visions of this park while in the Sublime. I'm wondering where Maeve is. Dolores or Christina in water really don't know what's going on here. Here's Caleb pursued by a drone host, one which will see him attack. He's wearing the same outfit that we saw him in at the end of episode 4. William shoots this guy. It's a little too difficult to make out if it's Lawrence or not, but he does have an automatic weapon on him. My guess is that this is somewhere in the real world, as you can make out this road divider in the background. A 3D printed body, and in the background you can make out two chairs across from one another just like humans would use when running their diagnostics on the hosts. Bernard not looking too good. Remember that in all versions of the future, he said he dies. Not sure who this is with either sand or ash in their hands. This is likely Dolores/Christina with the reflection of the Abernathy Ranch in her eyes. William uncovers this tear at the Hoover Dam, which looks almost identical to the one which led to the Sublime in season 2. If host William has switched places with real William, this could have some really interesting consequences. Take a look at this image of Hale at the transcending room. There are drone hosts to her left, but look at what she's wearing. The earrings, the hair, the black top, and strap around her shoulders looks identical to this shot at the Hoover Dam. She seems to be running from someone dressed all in black, and we just saw William approach the dam in black. Could he be the one hunting her? She has this bag with her, but I can't confirm if it's the same one she left Westworld with that contained the pearls. Here's Caleb escaping some sort of inferno. It almost looks like he's opening a sewer grate, but this doesn't really look like a street to me. Stubbs is here at this ransacked drugstore, one which we'll later see Clementine at. Could this take place in New York? After all, that's the place we last saw Clementine. We also get this brief shot of potentially Caleb fighting her, Frankie with a drone host in what appears to be New York, and Maeve finally confronting Hale. Now, I didn't notice this before, but it looks as though Hale is holding some sort of bell. Could it be for mind control? I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. That's it for this video. I want to hear your thoughts and theories about the show in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe. For more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember...